Welcome to the first wave of our takeover of your eardrums. It's the Disenfranchised Podcast. We're that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, and joining me, as always, the man who understands the importance of waves, it's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
It is going, my friend. How are all the things
cool.
going with you?
Pretty all right. You know, I finally moved my old new CRT up to my room. My
You did.
roommate is going to Vegas for a week this next week, so I'll have the house to myself.
Right on.
You know, I'm a pretty responsible adult most of the time, but I might cut
When
loose
did that start?
a few times this week.
When did you become a responsible
Steven,
adult? Was that like sometime in the last week?
You've only been around me when I'm untethered from my adult responsibilities. Okay.
Touche.
Okay. Like, your boy's got a whole other life, dude. Like,
All right.
a whole other life.
I will concede.
Yeah, dude.
Right on.
So that's what's up. Yeah.
We should probably make no mention here that our friend Brett is not with us this week. He has been conscripted into a weird military training program. As soon as he is able to get out of that, we wish him a very speedy return.
What's his code name, you think?
God, I don't even know.
Zombies Taken.
Zombies Taken. You know what? He could be Jigsaw. He could be Slimer. He could be Stay Puffed.
Hey, I like that. Yeah.
I don't know that he would like that, but yeah.
We'll
maybe
ask him next week.
Yeah, maybe Gozer.
Next week. Yeah. Vince Clortho, possibly.
Vince Clortho, Zool.
I would be Vince Clortho.
Yeah, I know you would be Vince Clortho. Of course you would.
I just walk around saying, "Maybe I got a milk bone."
Even when Brett's not here, we find a way to make Ghostbusters references.
I try to say that as much as possible when I meet a scary dog, and in my line of work, I meet a lot of dogs, and some of them are scary. So at least probably a handful of times, like 5 or 6 times a season, I get to say, "Maybe I got a milk bone."
Does anyone ever laugh when you do that?
No.
Okay. And yet you persist, man. That is commitment.
It's not for them, it's for me.
Okay.
That's why all my tattoos face me.
Right.
Okay, most people get tattoos facing out.
Except for that one on your shoulder that you've seen one time.
I mean, when I hit it in the mirror, it's still facing me. It's facing me as much as humanly possible. It's not upside down and backwards.
Fair.
You know?
Fair. Well, Tucker, look, there is a prequel to The Hunger Games coming out this week. A movie that honestly,
we don't know.
I didn't even know that it was happening. I Googled it. I saw it on like one of those movie release calendars, and I Googled it, and it was for sure happening. And I think I might have seen an ad for it, but like, other than that, I've heard nothing about this damn thing. I think it's got Jason Schwartzman in it.
Oh yeah, that's the only thing that kind of caught my eye.
Yeah,
my boy Jay Schwartz
playing like the ancestor of Stanley Tucci.
He's Baby Tooch.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's got what's her name, Rachel Ziegler from West Side Story in it. But anyway, so because of that, we're talking about another movie, one that failed to kick off a franchise, but still features teenagers conscripted to kill each other, and also based on a YA novel. Strong female protagonist, awkward love triangle. It's got everything, just like The Hunger Games, except it's called what, Tucker?
It's called The Fifth Wave, and I kept calling her original crush Ben Tramer. I kept wanting to call her Ben Tramer just because, like, they always say his first and last name. It's just like at Halloween, she always says Ben Tramer. It's never Ben.
Yeah,
it's Ben Tramer.
Or Ben Harper.
Poor Ben Tramer in Halloween too, man.
Oh no, yeah,
he's wearing the wrong motherfucking thing.
He is, poor guy.
And you know, if Sam Loomis weren't such a fucking ridiculous human being,
he
might still be alive.
Sam Loomis, the word, and I think our friend and actual psychiatrist Mike Snooney, or actual counselor Mike Snooney, would probably agree. Maybe one of the worst mental health professionals ever.
Get your ass out of here!
I shot him 6 times.
Yeah, dude.
But no, we are talking about 2006's The Fifth Wave, directed by Jay Blakeson, just the letter J Blakeson.
Hey, that's me. That's my code name here, the letter J.
The letter J, it is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Written by Susanna Grant, Akiva Goldsman, and Jeff Pinkner, based on the 2013 Rick Yancey novel, also called The Fifth Wave, and starring Chloe Grace Moretz, Alex Rowe, Nick Robinson, Ron Livingston, Maggie Siff, Maria Bello, Micah Monroe, excuse me. I couldn't tell if that was an I or an L because of the font in Wikipedia. Zachary Arthur, Liev Schreiber, Tony Revolori, Talitha Bateman, Najee Jeter, excuse me. Goodness. Alex McNichol and Parker Weirling. What a cast. Tucker, what a picture.
I cannot tell you how happy I was when Liev Schreiber showed the fuck up.
I was like, finally,
yes!
Finally, someone I've heard of in this movie that they're not going to kill off in 20 minutes.
I just love Liev Schreiber. As I've said many, many times before.
We've discussed Liev Schreiber on the show.
Put Liev Schreiber stuff on my TV on loop 24 hours a day, I'd watch it.
Did you ever see the movie he directed?
No, what's it called?
Everything is Illuminated.
No, I didn't see that. Is he also in it?
No, he's not. But you know who is?
Oh, who is?
Your boy Elijah Wood.
I do like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah. We've all got a little Elijah Wood in us, you know? I think he represents a certain part of everyone.
Does he?
Yeah, I think he does.
Oh, okay.
I think he really, really does.
It's news to me, but all right.
Liev Schreiber is totally my jam. I will watch him in anything. And it elevated this film for me just to have him being present. And he does his thing. Like, he doesn't care. He's like, oh, you give me some bullshit? That's all right.
He's 100% the best part of this movie, and it's not even close. Like, he is the bright and shining star in this one for me.
Oh, he's not in it enough. I wish he were in it
more.
No. And that's one of the reasons I would totally watch a sequel to this.
Mm-hmm.
Totally watch a sequel to this.
I'm going to assume now. I will be very clear. I have no familiarity whatsoever with these.
Are there more books, or is there just the one book?
It is a trilogy, sir.
Holy fuck! Is it Sixth and Seventh Wave?
No, it's the Infinite Sea and the Last Star. No,
I'm glad that they went away from that, because they could have very easily done that and it would have been nonsensical, because
correct
book franchises do that all the time. So
I'm glad that no one bitched too bad when George Lucas did it on the re-release of Star Wars. Is all I'm saying. So
yeah, you guys, I don't know if you know this, but the New Hope, it's really just called Star Wars, you guys.
It is, and it always was until it wasn't.
Is it also a New Hope? Sure. But low-key, it's Star Wars.
I'm always going to call it Star Wars. I will only call it a New Hope when I get, around some, fucking fanboy. But yeah.
And that's a common question. You're like, yo, fucking Star Wars. And they're like, which one? Mm-hmm. You're like, well, A New Hope, is what I was implying, but whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It becomes very quickly once he realizes he can do more than one, it becomes the name of the franchise and not the name of the film.
And that's a smart move, because Star Wars, it's a very general thing. You can do anything with it as long as you're in space and there's some kind of war going on.
Right.
You're set, dude. You're set.
Here's $5. Go see a Star Wars. Absolutely.
Yeah, go see the Star Wars.
Go see a Star Wars. Yep. But yeah, man. Now, Liev Schreiber, 100% the best part of this movie. Like, I've got no beef with Chloe Grace Moretz. I think she is a fine actress. This movie does not do her any favors.
I think she has her moments. I think
Agreed.
The middle of the film. I think the middle of the film,
a fishy. Oh,
I think the middle of this film kind of wastes her completely.
I think it wastes everything, honestly.
I think she's really great. That's the thing about this movie, is I just didn't like the second act. That's it. Everything else was fine for me. Like,
it starts so strong, and then it just drops out.
Like it had me. It hooked me. Like, I was like, I didn't even look at my phone until halfway through this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, I've seen stuff like this before, but this is still pretty fucking cool. And then the
Yeah.
middle hits and you're like, okay,
Literally the first
all
half
right.
hour, I am like vibing with this. I'm like, wait, is this good actually? Like, I wanted so badly to be able to say this movie fucking rules. But after that first half hour, like once you kill off Ron Livingston, I just kind of like stopped caring for most of it. And then I can't, it doesn't do enough in the third act to get me back.
It doesn't, like, I'll tell you, the third act is leaps and bounds better than the second act for sure.
For sure, but
But
still doesn't hold a candle to the first act because it doesn't do. First of all, it's predictable as shit. Like,
well, I'll tell you, I predicted the outcome, but I didn't predict the details of it, and that was
okay,
kind of an exciting reveal. I was like, oh shit, that's wow. Like I was getting it as they were. Like we were all realizing it together, and I was like, oh, that is kind of cool.
yeah,
Like I knew where we were going, but I didn't know that we were going to take this road there. That's pretty
right,
okay. That's all
yeah.
right. I'm into that.
This is, I mean, we're taking the scenic route at least. Yeah, I
And
mean,
the first time I saw that, when they were like, "This is an X-ray of a person with the parasite on it," I'm like,
mhm,
"Yeah, but that's a kind of a big thing, and like this person's head isn't like bulging or anything."
yeah, and I'm
So I
also,
don't know if that was intentional or
but no, because they are. I mean, they're the ones that are infected, but their heads aren't
yeah.
bulging either. So it's, I mean, it's something parasitic, but it probably doesn't look like that.
Now I knew Homeboy that rescued our girl. I knew from the second I saw him that he was
Oh yeah,
something. He was
yeah.
not human. He was something else. I knew it was going to be complicated.
Yeah, well, and my problem with with the reveal of who he is that scene is so fucking dark. I don't know what the hell is happening in that scene, so I didn't
Yo,
even know there was anything special about him until she starts talking, and then I'm like,
you know,
wait, did he do something? Did I miss something? What happened? Like, it's so fucking dark. I couldn't see anything.
yeah, I did kind of think that was kind of silly and out of character for her too, to just immediately tell him to go fuck off, considering he just saved her life from like 5 dudes.
Yeah, and they also, presumably, they also had just fucked at that point.
Yeah. Wait, okay, so here's something that happened, and I'm not sure. Now, I watched this movie and I was like, I can't believe this is PG-13. This feels like a soft R, at least.
Well, they never say fuck.
Well, I noticed that. See, I watched it on Sling. I have Sling
Mm.
TV.
Look
It's
at
like,
you with your
like
Sling TV.
streaming cable or whatever. Because
Sure,
I gotta
sure.
watch Chucky, man. I gotta watch
You
Chucky.
do love your Chucky.
And there's a couple other shows, that I got a really good deal. But anyway, um, so it was 142 or an hour and 42 minutes is what mine said. And then, when I was looking at some other things, I saw like 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Mine
So
was an hour 52.
what did I not see?
That I don't know. Maybe you should go through the plot for me, and I'll.
Because here's the deal. Like I say, the version I watched at the beginning of it, it said this film has been modified from its original version. It has been formatted to fit this screen. Now,
Right.
had it been edited, they would have said that.
Correct. They should have
Edited for
said that.
for time or content, is what
Correct.
they normally say, or both, time and content.
Mhm.
But this still felt like too rough for a PG-13 movie. This still felt like an R with whatever I missed.
I mean,
Like there's some dark fucking shit in this movie.
there is. I mean, look, it's a movie about fucking child soldiers.
I think that's what kind of, despite the fact that it did get a little silly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's especially there are, I think that two people edited this film. I
Mm.
think one person who knew what was going on, and then every once in a while they had to go to the bathroom. And when they went to the bathroom, some insane, ridiculous people put together a scene. Because most of this movie is just, it's whatever, it's fine. It's edited like you would expect it to be edited. It's not great, it's not bad, it's what you would expect. But there
Mm-hmm.
are some scenes that harken back to Bohemian Rhapsody in their just
Ooh.
abhorrent editing style. And there's a scene at the beginning where she's at school and
Mm-hmm.
she's talking to somebody, I don't remember, but it's literally like 45 seconds of her talking, and I swear to you they make at least 30 or 40 cuts back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's so weird when it happens too, because it takes me out of the movie. So like I said, the rest of the movie it's edited like you would expect it. You don't notice there's anything off, and then every once in a while a scene will pop up where they're just, instead of doing a 2-shot, they're just cutting back and forth, cutting back and forth, cutting back and forth, and it's nauseating almost.
Oh God, let me see if so. There's only one editor listed, and that is Paul Rubel. Is the editor listed in the IMDb credits? This is the man responsible for editing. You know what? He's Michael Mann's editor.
So what the fuck? What was that shit?
I don't,
like, you know what I'm talking about. You noticed it too, right?
Yeah, I did. But I mean, okay. So here's the thing: he is Michael Mann's editor up through Public Enemies. So he edits,
which is the only movie of his that I didn't really care for, honestly.
I don't like that one. I think the Keep is a worse movie, but but that's also Michael Mann early experimenting with digital filmmaking, and he's still kind of figuring it out. So he is Michael Mann's editor on The Insider, which is fucking great. Collateral, Miami Vice. My favorite. Collateral's good. Miami Vice and Public Enemy. So he does those 4. Word. But he also edits like movies that we can cover on this podcast one day. Like I just had it. Give me a sec. Movie we have covered, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He edited Michael Mann's The Island. Or Michael Bay's The Island, Michael Bay's Transformers.
That doesn't sound right.
Michael Bay's Revenge of the Fallen. Thor. Future episode of this podcast, Battleship. Future episode of this podcast, Need for Speed. Future episode of this podcast, Seventh Son. Future episode of this podcast, fucking Bumblebee. Like, he's just like after his collaboration with Michael Mann ends, it's Thor, and then, it's Thor, Battleship, Need for Speed, Transformers: Age of Extinction, Seventh Son, Fifth Wave, The Fate of the Furious, and Bumblebee. Like, so he becomes an action guy after Public Enemies, exclusively.
Which is cool, but that still doesn't explain what the fuck is going on in this movie.
I mean, well, it feels like sometimes he's editing a Michael Mann movie, and sometimes he's editing a Michael Bay movie, and he can't decide which one it's going to be. Yeah. Because you get the long cuts, the stuff that's supposed to look like a movie, and that's the Michael Mann movie, and then it's the frenetic quick cutting for no reason, and that's the Michael Bay movie.
Yeah,
is what it feels like to me. Like those seem to be kind of the two, and it's like he can't decide which one is which one he wants to do. He also edited a future episode of this podcast, Hancock.
I want to throw I like that movie.
I know you do.
It's weird.
It is.
I have a very weird relationship with that movie because I like both parts of that movie, but I don't like how it transitions.
Here's my promise to our audience: we will cover that movie within the next year.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! I'm way into that.
I know you are. I mean, it's partly your insistence that we're covering it within the next year. So,
well, yeah, because we gotta do Wild Wild West that month too.
Yes, we do. We're Will Smith theme month. What?
Wicked Wild. Man, I wish they were gonna make a sequel to Enemy of the State, dude. That's what I want to talk about. That's ooh-wee. I like that movie a lot. You've seen that, right? Enemy of the State.
Jason Lee saying "fuck a duck" incessantly. Yeah.
I don't know if that's where I get it, but it's always nice to hear people say "fuck a duck."
Also, one of the last great Gene Hackman performances. Well, first of all, the performances are always good, but one of the last great Gene Hackman movies.
Yeah.
Because God knows after that, it was kind of downhill for him. Like, that was toward the
retired.
end. Yeah.
He was like, no, thanks.
I mean, he retired after Welcome to Mooseport, and really, like, what a one to go out on, though.
Hey, that's got your boy Ray Romano in it.
That's your boy, not mine. But no, I like Ray Romano more as a dramatic actor than I do as a, like, Ray Romano in The Irishman. Fucking unbelievable.
I'll bet he's good in that.
Fucking unbelievable. He's so good in that movie. He was also in that Get Shorty TV show, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think that's what I liked about Somewhere in Queens. Was because it's a mixed performance. You get to see him do some really dramatic stuff, but he's also kind of a funny guy.
He's
a dad. So like,
he plays the exact same thing in The Big Sick.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard it's really good.
He and Holly Hunter are so good in that movie. Like, it's undeniable. Those two are phenomenal in that movie.
Ray Romano is my favorite Dr. Katz guest. There, I said it.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you that
I
one.
said it.
I'll give you that one.
He's great on that show.
Yeah, he is. He's really funny on that episode. The one episode of that I'm remembering. Yeah.
I think he's on 4 or 5 different
Yeah,
episodes.
I was gonna say he's probably been on more, but I'm remembering one in particular that I thought was really funny.
I think him and Dom Herrera hold like the record for being most appearances on Dr. Katz. Those guys
Tom
always on
Herrera.
the
There's a
show.
name I haven't heard in a while. God,
Yeah,
love that
dude.
guy. Fuck yeah,
He's
Dom
funny.
Herrera. He is.
Dude, you got to get up. That's the rabbit hole you have to go down this weekend. Hop on YouTube and just watch the shit out of some curated Dr. Katz. But don't just watch the segments. Watch the episodes, because you got to get that good early H. John Benjamin shit in
I was going to say that's where I originally know H. John Benjamin from. And then before he was in everything. Katz. Yeah.
Little Benny boy, little Benny. Benny.
Benny. But, yeah, dude. But yeah, how did we get here?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about the editor, and we came over here somehow.
Yeah,
I was going to say that the kind of editing that sometimes pops up in this movie, it's not bad. It just doesn't fit what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, you have the same kind of editing in the famous scene from Bad Boys, but that works because it's fucking Bad Boys.
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Like, again, like the difference between like a Michael Mann edit and a Michael Bay edit. Like, and this guy seems to have his foot in both worlds and can't figure out which movie he's making.
Yeah. And it's just, it pops up in the weirdest places. I'm never expecting it. I'll just be having a normal time, and then I'm just like, what?
Mm-hmm.
My brain starts flopping around in my head. What's happening?
Huh? Yeah, absolutely. Man, yeah, it's fucking wild. But no, to cut back to your point, like as to what was cut out of this movie in the edit that you saw, like right before that scene happens, like they start making out in the back of the
I remember the smooching. I didn't remember any implied sexual intercourse.
Well, but then when like they cut back, they're like cuddled up next to each other in the back seat. So I'm like, you know, they're making out. They're teenagers. Teenagers are notoriously horny. Like,
he may have slipped it in.
I'm just saying. There is some potential fuckery that has happened in the backseat of that car. That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes it just happens, man.
Sometimes it do be like that, though.
Sometimes it do.
But and you know the very obviously forced love triangle, which is I think is kind of a hallmark of some of these YA books.
But
which,
you know,
like Hunger Games has that, Twilight has that. Like it's kind of a built-in feature.
Well, at least on this one, I don't feel like they kind of spent too much time on it, which was nice. Like it wasn't.
No, because that's what the sequels are for.
Triangle, because like you had the dude and she made out with him, and then she got back together with Ben Tramer, and like. But nobody seemed to be mad. Like Homeboy's dead, right? Like he exploded. He got exploded in that building.
Did he?
I'm gonna say yes. Like if he shows up in the sequel, the non-existent sequel, like I'm gonna be like, well, you better explain that shit. Okay.
I'm gonna look. No, he's totally here. The book becomes much more involved with the members of Squad 53 and the character Ringer. The group takes refuge in an old hotel near the ruins of Wright-Patterson at Cassie's insistence that Evan is still alive. Evan attempts to Evan's still there, man. Evan is revealed to have survived, having been rescued by another silencer named Grace. So there you go.
Damn it. You know what? Like do you know how close this is to the book? Is there any indication on? Because damn it, Steven, I might have to listen to these audiobooks, because like that's the thing about this movie. Is it a good movie? Not really, but I really like the stuff going on in it is really intriguing. Like I'm really interested in this story. I think the story itself is great. The writing is not great. The directing is meh. But I think the story itself, the bones of this story, it's something I'm very interested in.
And that's something that's a conclusion that Brett and I came to when we talked about Artemis Fowl a few years ago, when that movie came out in 2020 at the height of the pandemic and the awful. That movie Disney Plus just kind of like slips that movie out under the radar.
It just farted it out.
Yeah, it just like, and not even like an autumn, like just a little squeaker of a fart.
Yeah, dude.
Does that movie come out? So, but we talked about that, and we're like, the bones are. There's some interesting world building here. Like there's a story here that's interesting. It's just not in this movie. And this definitely has that kind of, again, to compare to another YA story, like this kind of has a similar feel to it, in that it looks like there's something interesting here. It's just not translated particularly well. It feels like, and again, I know that they're wanting to dig into stuff in the future sequels, but in terms of the ending, it feels like the book ends very similar to the movie. Like the three narrowly escaped the bombs, had Ringer and the rest of the Squad 53 not appeared in the Humvee to save them. They all leave Camp Haven behind. Now a smoking crater. Evan Walker lost in its wake. So, and then we find out in the sequel book called The Infinite Sea that he has survived.
I'm gonna have to read that shit. Damn it.
So, and he survives apparently into the third novel as well. Spoilers for that.
Where are you at, Audible? Damn it.
How many Audible credits you got saved up?
I had to cut off my subscription because I was getting such a backlog. There was a time there where I couldn't get audiobooks quick enough. But then my driving habits changed.
Yeah, same. Same.
And so I've got a huge backlog. So until I'm through this backlog and feel like I'm at a spot to where I can, go month by month and listen to a book every month, I gotta lay off of it. Sometimes something will come out where I'm like, I'm just gonna have to buy it anyway because I know I'm gonna listen to that. Like,
yeah, I'm probably gonna have to pause my subscription for a little bit anyway. But yeah, like I've got a couple, like 2 or 3 credits stored up right now, so I might. Oh, nice. I've been promising myself I'm gonna buy the John le Carré novels, so that for me is the big thing I want to get into. But
I have added The Fifth Wave to my Audible wish list. The Infinite Sea and The Last Star.
Those are the 3 novels in this series.
And so they've got 2 narrators, a lady and a dude.
Do they? I don't know.
It's interesting. No, okay. I'm looking at it. I'm telling you. I'm not asking you, Steven. I'm flat out telling you.
Okay, fine.
There are 2 narrators.
Fine.
For each book, there are 2 narrators. And the boy is different in the first one, but the girl is the same through all of them.
Okay.
So I'm guessing one... I'm even more intrigued. Damn it.
One is probably narrating Cassie, and the other is narrating like Evan or no, probably Ben, honestly, because he feels like more the focal character. And
Ben Tramer?
Yeah. Ben Zombie Tramer Harper Parrish. Okay. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
God, yeah. What a weird thing. Yeah, and then we find out like at the end of this movie that her name is actually Cassiopeia and not like Cassandra or something, and I'm like, okay, you fucking know this character is written by a fucking author trying to be cute, because authors can't give their characters just normal names. They have to like name them after weird shit. Yeah. Like, Cassie, short for Cassiopeia, not Cassandra, like a normal person.
Wowzers.
Yeah, man. So, I don't know. Or Ben I was named after Ben and Jerry. God, what a dumb joke.
I was named after a character on a soap opera called Guiding Light.
I was named after a biblical martyr.
That tracks.
Yeah. My sister was named after a name my mom liked.
Well, that's nice too.
Yeah, she had that name. She had those names picked out, and she had another name picked out if my sister was going to be a boy.
What was it?
Jason Patrick.
I like him in The Lost Boys.
Right.
He's good. He's real good at that.
But yeah, no. My mom had our names, at least my first name, because my dad was like, I don't want a junior. Like, do not name him after me. So my middle name is my father's first name. My dad hates his middle name. That's why. And because he hates it, I will not repeat it here on mic. But no, so my middle name is my father's first name.
That's really cool.
And then my youngest nephew, his middle name is my first name.
What? You've been honored.
I have a namesake out there, because God knows I'm not having any kids of my own. So
my daughter's middle name is an homage to our mutual friend JP Leck.
Oh, wonderful.
That's a true story.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, man, just like fucking names like that. And I feel the same way about Brian Fuller shows. Have you ever noticed that every Brian Fuller show, the main female lead has a dude's name? Like what is classically considered a dude's name?
I hadn't noticed that before, but now that you mention it.
Yeah. Like Dead Like Me, Wonderfalls, they are all, but it's like usually like, well, it's Winifred, but everyone calls me Fred for short, like something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like life ain't easy for a boy named Sue, but it's, it's a little better for a girl named Fred, I guess. But yeah, all of and he even does that in Hannibal, like, which is a Brian Fuller show. He takes what is typically a male character and just casts a female and changes nothing else.
That little
like,
red-haired gal,
yeah,
Freddie.
yeah.
Freddie. I want to say Freddie Riedenschneider, but that's the lawyer and the man who or the man who wasn't there.
Oh yeah.
Freddie Riedenschneider, played by a fucking monk. What's his fucking name?
Adrian
no,
Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, Tony Shubaloobaloob.
Tony Shalhoub. Now, because now I want to know what the
Freddie Riedenschneider.
Not Freddie Riedenschneider.
It's Freddie though. It's definitely Freddie.
It is. But I'm Freddie Lowndes.
There you go.
Played by Lara Jean Korostecki.
Didn't Philip Seymour Hoffman play him in Red Dragon?
Probably. That sounds right. Yeah.
Because he's the one who got tied to the chair and set on fire. So
Correct.
That's definitely him.
But that's not
Manhunter.
That's not how that happens in the show.
No, it is not.
In Manhunter, that character, future episode of this podcast, Manhunter, by the way.
Oh, I can't fucking wait.
Just give me a fuck. I think we're gonna wait until the Heat sequel comes out to cover that.
It's Stephen Lang.
It's fucking Stephen Lang. Yeah, we both found that at the same time. Right on.
That's wonderful.
And he looks insane in that movie too. Like, do you remember what he looks like?
Lang.
Do you remember what Stephen Lang looks like?
I haven't watched that movie in probably 5 years.
Do yourself a favor, Tucker. In fact, do it right now because I kind of want to hear your reaction. Stephen Lang Manhunter, and just fucking look at that look, man. Just look at that look. Like, you would not even, if you didn't know that was Stephen Lang, you would not know that was Stephen Lang.
I'm looking in the photos from IMDb.
Like, I don't see too many that have him in the suit, but that suit that he is wearing is really what I'm talking about. It is kind of insane.
Boy, there's a lot of fucking people in this movie. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, man. It's good, man. It's
my God.
Right? Fucking first of all, look at that haircut and then look at that suit.
Yeah, dude. He almost looks like fucking if Robert Downey Jr. had grown up differently, like if he went a different way in his looks.
Right.
Like just slightly different.
Yeah, 100%.
They could be cousins.
They could. It's fucking weird, man. Fucking weird. But yeah, so I mean, there you go. That's that.
Do you think we should do the plot? I don't have any history with this movie, do you?
Yeah, no, God no. I remember seeing the trailer for it.
I don't.
And
I'd never heard of this before.
Like, but I was thinking it was a different movie. Like, when I found out that Chloe Grace Moretz was in it, I'm like, I was thinking of the wrong movie. But I remember something about this movie happening. And which means that there's probably another YA novel adaptation out there that I am forgetting about that also never got sequels. But yeah, I remember seeing like a trailer for this and that being the last thing I ever heard about this movie. So I have no history with this. I read some of the plot synopsis for the novels on the internet, and that's about all I know.
It was nice to see Zachary Arthur, the kid who plays Sam. He is one of the protagonists of the Chucky TV series.
Oh, no. Okay. I guess I did not recall that. That's good. Yeah, glad that kid's still getting work.
Of course, you got Flash Thompson in there. Scream 6 is Flash Thompson.
Scream 6, Wes Anderson's own favorite collaborator, Tony Revolori.
Yeah, dude.
And
outside of Roman Coppola, yeah. Or Owen Wilson.
Right. Well, they show that picture. There's that shot of him on top of the building, and I'm like, we have to be getting more Tony Revolori in this movie. If this is all we get of Tony Revolori, I'm going to be pissed. If you're saving all the Tony Revolori for the sequel, I'm going to be pissed. And then he's like part of the group, and I'm like, okay, all right.
He's there.
Okay,
he pops in every once in a while. He's like, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't. None of those guys have any characterization other than they're part of the team. Like, that's really all they have. But
they're just child soldiers.
Literally, this is like a fucking Ender's Game shit, except like far more sinister somehow.
Or even Divergent. It's also about kind of like teenage, not really soldiers, but it's similar.
I mean, but again, and we're talking about this because Hunger Games movies, like, those are all about children fucking fighting and killing each other. Before we do the plot, let's do like a brief history of like the YA adaptation post Harry Potter.
All right, okay. Now, everybody, Steven went to a lot of great lengths to put this together, so let's settle in.
Yeah, this is one of those.
Please go ahead.
We're gonna do this thing that I used to do early in the show, where I would just talk for like 20 minutes straight, and Brett would just occasionally go, "Oh," and that was like it. But yeah,
that's crazy.
Dude, you're doing so well right now. So the first Harry Potter film, and honestly, the first Lord of the Rings film, they both come out in 2001. So that feels like that kind of the beginning of this whole thing. Like, the Harry Potter books kind of kicked off this YA push in just literature, but the Harry Potter films like translated that into movies, and so everyone's like, well, we can do this too. So those movies start in 2001, and there are other films in between. I'm going to leave a lot on the floor here, or just a lot on the table. Those movies come out like every year. Order of the Phoenix is 2007, like, and then in 2008 you get Inkheart. Previous episode of this podcast, Inkheart. By the way, I'm going to be saying previous episode and future episode a lot in this rundown.
Wait a minute, what's Inkheart?
Inkheart's that Brendan Fraser movie, about that this like book, and it transports him to another world. You got Andy Serkis in there. You got Paul Bettany, Helen Mirren, Jim Broadbent.
What's the movie I'm thinking of with Mickey Rourke and the devil?
Angel Heart.
There it is. I was like, is that? I thought that was what that was. I was like, wait, that's a YA novel? No fucking way. That's ridiculous. Robert De Niro is the devil.
Yes, Lou Cipher. Get it, Lou Cipher. Louis Cipher.
I saw that movie once, and it was really cool.
I have never seen it. I kind of want to check it out. Though. I want to. I definitely do.
It's kind of fucked up.
I believe really it. Fun. I have no problem believing it. 2008, we get Inkheart. We also get something called the Spiderwick Chronicles. Future episode of this podcast, the Spiderwick Chronicles. And we also get the first installment of a little series called the Twilight franchise. So those pop up because a Mormon lady had a dirty dream and decided to write a book about it. And that becomes its own separate, very popular thing. 2009, we get something called Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, a movie I have actually seen, and we will, guess like what?
Maybe I have seen that.
Cover that on this podcast one day.
I've probably seen that.
So yeah, we will revisit that at some point. Another future episode of this podcast in 2011, we get I Am Number 4. What if there was a number 4, I guess?
What if I were him?
Starring favorite of this podcast, particularly this past year, Timothy Olyphant.
Well, hey,
we do love Timmy O. And then in 2012, we get the first installment of the Hunger Games franchise. The reason that we are covering this movie today. 2013, the next year, we get Beautiful Creatures, future episode of this podcast, Beautiful Creatures, starring everyone's favorite Alden Ehrenreich. We also get a future episode of this a past episode of this podcast, Ender's Game, also in 2013, and Mortal Instruments, The City of Bones, also in 2013. 2014 gives us the first film in the Divergent franchise.
Represent.
As Tucker and I were talking about before this started, that movie That franchise, of course, just trips and falls right before the finish line.
I saw both of those at the movie theater, Steven. Both of them.
You saw Insurgent and Divergent, Insurgent, and Allegiant Part 1?
Yes, so 3 of them.
Okay.
I saw all 3 of them.
Wow.
In the theater, and we were anxiously awaiting that television series.
Which will never happen.
No.
Particularly because Shailene Woodley is like soft retired now. So
it's kind of a bummer. Because they were going somewhere with it. It wasn't great, but
and
it's also it had its audience.
It's been so far out that like I think everyone's kind of with this movie. Like if they ever decide to do a sequel to this one, everyone's aged out, so they kind of have to choose a different medium for it.
They'd have to do kind of a Ripley's Game with it, where like this is a sequel, but like a sequel to the first one happening in a different universe.
Correct. Yeah. Then we have the Maze Runner series, which kicks off in 2014. I'm missing several in that come in here. Like I'm missing Beastly. I'm missing.
Wait, did I watch that?
Beastly. It's the one with Vanessa Hudgens.
Why do I feel like I've seen that? It's really bad.
You might have. Probably is. We're going to cover it one day, a future episode of this podcast.
All right.
Speaking of future episode of this podcast, Vampire Academy also comes out in 2014.
Also represent. I did not see that at the theater, but I have seen it multiple times, whether I wanted to or not.
Feels like you were dating someone around this time who really liked this type of movie.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Maximum Ride 2016. That's a thing that happened. What else? The Darkest Minds in 2018. Also in 2018, future episode of this podcast. Darkest Minds also future episode of this podcast. Mortal Engines, future episode of this podcast. Our friends from High on Cartoons are going to join us to talk that one. Speaking of Stephen Lang, he's in Mortal Engines.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And then past episodes of this podcast, Artemis Fowl and Chaos Walking. I know there's a lot that I left out there, but I'm really just trying to illustrate how fucking ubiquitous this genre has been for pretty much the majority of this century. Like people keep trying to do the next Harry Potter, the next Hunger Games, the next Twilight, to the point where we're now just making prequels to that. With the case of Hunger Games and Harry Potter, we're just making prequels to that shit.
Well, like those Fantastic Beasts movies suck a big one too.
God, they do. I didn't even watch the third one. Like I had to watch those first two in theaters because my ex really loved Harry Potter.
Me too.
But like I did,
were really bad.
By the time the third one came out, I'm just like, you wild horses could not drag me into.
And look, I don't have a problem with any of the Harry Potter's movies. The third one is by far the best out of the series.
It's the only one directed by an actual auteur.
I'm pretty indifferent about all of them. They're fine films. They do what they're supposed to do, and they do it pretty damn well.
They are what they are.
But where was I going with that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Fantastic Beasts movies, dude.
Those suck ass.
From the first frame of the first one, it's like, no, this ain't it.
They suck ass, and not in a fun way.
This ain't it at all. This ain't it at all.
No. That's not. No, they're bad. They're very bad.
Well, I think. I'm sorry.
No.
My point of where I kind of was going there is that I think the problem with all of these YA movies that just sputter out or like go double down and do the sequel anyway is because they're buying the rights to a lot of these books before they're even finished.
Correct.
Like something like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, those are established properties. You know they're classics. You know it's going to be hard to fuck those up.
Mm-hmm.
But like these they're just grabbing whatever's coming out. They're like, that's a YA thing. Make that a movie. That's a YA thing. Make that a movie. We don't know if it's going to be profitable, but it's a fucking YA thing and it's sci-fi or whatever. So let's go.
You might remember the same exact thing. Excuse me. God, words are hard. The same exact thing happened after X-Men came out in 2000. He Who Must Not Be Named's X-Men. That movie comes out and is successful, and all of a sudden everyone's just buying up as many comic properties as they can. Doesn't matter if anyone's heard of them. Doesn't matter. The same thing happens after the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. People start buying up indie comic properties like The Tick and Max and like just shit
that was a good time to be alive.
Right? Like fucking the
The
fucking
Max,
animated
dude,
Spawn
yes.
cartoon. Like
the HBO one, holy shit, that's
yes,
good.
all
Have you
that
seen
fucking
those? All
shit.
3 of those?
I have not. No.
Holy fuck, you gotta watch those, Steven. That is
I will before
premium
we cover
90s
Spawn.
adult animation. It's
If
so
if that
good.
Spawn movie actually comes out, I
Hey,
will
Brett.
try to watch all that before we cover that.
Brett, guess who lends a voice in that?
Did you just call me Brett?
Yeah, but your other Brett, yeah.
I mean, I know
No.
Spawn is voiced by Keith David. I know that.
Oh boy. That's our boy, Steven.
By my main man, Keith David. I fucking love that guy.
We love him.
We do.
We need to do the interview with the cameo interview.
That's who we need to do it with.
With
yes,
Keith
with
David,
Keith David. 100%. That would be fucking rad as hell.
We'll just be. It will be the Chris Farley's type sketch. We'll be like, hey, can you say the thing that you said in the one movie that was really cool? Can you say that right now?
Hey, remember that time you fought hey. remember when you fought Roddy Piper and you're like, not this year
for like 20 minutes. Remember when you fought him for like 20 minutes?
And it's like the best fight scene in movie history. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was like, awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. That was so awesome.
Did you guys really fight? Did he really hit you?
Do you remember when the Thing killed everybody except for you and you and Kurt Russell, and you guys are sitting out in the cold, and he's like, why don't we just sit here and see what happens? And then the movie ends. Yeah. That was cool. I like that movie.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah. God, I love Keith David. What a legend. What, not in this movie though. Tragically. God.
Not unfortunately. It could use some Keith David.
You know, would this movie have been just a little bit better if Keith David had been playing the Liev Schreiber role?
No,
I know you love
you
Liev
wouldn't
Schreiber.
have Liev Schreiber. You can't find something else for him?
What else is there in this movie?
For a man of his age, fuck, I don't know, dude.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's it. That's what you got.
I don't know if there is a role for him. I mean, because Liev Schreiber's already there. If Liev Schreiber weren't there, yeah, stick Keith David in there, sure.
But I'm so what you're saying is
vibe
this
for sure.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, is the vibe better if that's Keith David instead of Liev Schreiber? That's what I'm asking.
I don't know if it's better, but it would be different. I mean, I'd say that they're comparable in the caliber of actor that they are. They're both excellent thespians, well trained and well read thespians who know their way around a screenplay. They hit their mark, you know.
I think Liev Schreiber does a really good job of playing kind of. Here's what I'll say. I think Keith David is better at cranking up the charm in a way that Liev Schreiber can't quite get it up that high. Like, Keith David can turn it on and it's blinding. Liev Schreiber is a charming man, don't get me wrong, but he plays scummy really well. Like, he plays like that, just right. Like, he dirty,
jumped
gritty.
On the scene with Cotton Weary, dude.
Yes, this is what I'm saying.
Swarmiest little dude ever. Not a bad dude, just a little stinker.
Exactly.
Just a little fucking mischievous fuck.
Exactly. And so he plays that really well. And I think David can play that too, but with David, he can play that guy and seduce you at the same time.
He's also swagger, dude.
Requiem for a Dream. Like, swagger. That is 100% his role in Requiem for a Dream.
Yes.
And I always need to remind you, he did not take it out for air.
No, dude.
I'm just saying that happened.
That's a thing that happened. We all let it happen.
It is. And we did. And we're all culpable, quite frankly. God, that movie makes me so fucking sad. And he makes me so fucking sad in that movie because he is so scummy in that movie. But again, so fucking charming. He's diabolical, but he's charming. And I think if Liev Schreiber's in that role, it's a lot more threatening from the get-go, whereas Keith David kind of lures you in. Like, he's got that kind of almost like he would play a good devil in something. Like, I know Peter Stormare is kind of the platonic ideal of Satan in film. I think if you ever cast Keith David as Satan, he automatically takes top spot. That's my bold claim right now.
I don't think it's that bold. really, and I'd be surprised if he's never played the devil in something. But it would be hard to find out because he's in about 30 movies a year.
Yeah. I mean, he is a prolific voice actor because with a voice like that, how could he not be?
How could you not?
Like, how could you fucking not? He's
I'd
in,
be mad if he weren't in
like,
like everything.
one of the greatest things is his turn as the villain in The Princess and the Frog, a movie I'm not super fond of, but he is easily the
I like
best
that
part
movie
of.
a lot, actually. I have that DVD. I love that
I like the
movie.
music in it, and I like the villain in it, and that's about it. Like, I think the rest of it is fine, but like his villain is like one of the great Disney villains of the last century of the 21st century, like for me, for whatever that's worth.
Word.
Probably not much, but there it is. But yeah,
know.
man, Dr. Facilier, love him.
Keith David, what a man. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man.
Indeed. But again, sadly, tragically not in this movie. How did we get on this Keith David bandwagon?
We were talking about Spawn for some reason. No, Keith
David. YA. Oh no, because we're talking about like the idea that Hollywood just kind of buys up these properties when one thing is successful. And because again, Hollywood is all about trying to replicate a previous success, not realizing that success was because someone took a risk and took a chance. Mm-hmm. It did something different and bold and original, but that's not Hollywood. And again, this is something that comes up constantly on this fucking podcast. Just this notion that when there's a good idea somewhere in Hollywood, we just need to replicate it ad infinitum until it stops making money. And then we find whatever is making money, and then we jump on that and keep doing that.
But something that is good that comes from that, outside of all of the garbage that you get from it, is when it all comes back around to nostalgia. You have a new era of filmmakers, taking those things that they loved from this type of movie when they were growing up and making something even better. I mean, it happened in the 90s and 2000s with like exploitation films.
Sure.
Like, and it's kind of been happening since, I say the 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
They've been elevating that shit because these are good filmmakers that love shitty movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so they make some really good shitty movies.
So there's two sides of that coin, right?
So when this comes back around, I'm just saying.
There's the good side of that coin with like Tarantino and Rodriguez, who are making like taking those kind of like schlocky, low budget grindhouse exploitation films that they loved and giving them a modern sensibility. And then there's on the other side of that coin, there's like your fucking J.J. Abramses, who are like just making that same thing over and over and over and over again. Like, I don't think J.J. Abrams has an original idea in his head. He just remakes the popular thing that he liked when he was a kid without really trying to update the sensibility of the thing. You know what I'm saying? So there's the reinvention and the like the deconstruction reconstruction that Tarantino and Rodriguez are doing, and then there's just the straight up regurgitation that you get from something like Star Wars the Force Awakens, which is still a fine movie, but that's essentially what that is. Or like, I'm gonna get so much shit for saying this, like Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is just like the same thing but now.
Let's while we're here and Brett's not, he's not going to listen to this.
I know he's not.
Did you watch that Next on Ghostbusters trailer that came out this last week?
The like Frozen whatever? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's a monster of the week, dude. That's not
I know.
That's not a movie plot. That's a monster of the week. This should be, and that the reason I thought of that when you mentioned Ghostbusters, you were talking about J.J. Abrams. I really liked the Star Trek movies. I liked the first two a whole lot, and then the third one.
I liked the first one and the third one. I didn't like the second one at all. The second one sucked out loud.
The third one didn't feel like a film plot to me. It felt like a television plot.
That's kind of what I liked about it, though.
Well, and at that point, just start making a series. Like I'd watch that.
No, and I'd watch
that.
Star Wars or Star Trek. Star Trek started on television. Like next year, 2024. I don't know how successful I'm going to be in this, but I want to watch all the Star Trek next year.
You're going to watch all the Star Treks, yeah.
I'm going to try to watch all the Star Treks next year. So if you want to hear how that's going to be going for me,
even the animated,
look, it's all on Paramount Plus, all of it.
Deep Space Nine,
yep.
Voyager, Enterprise.
Yep.
Fuck
Keep
yeah,
going.
dude.
You're doing great.
Those I stopped caring after those.
After that, you've got Discovery.
What's
Picard,
the one with Scott Bakula?
Enterprise.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, after that, you've got Discovery, you've got Picard, you've got Lower Decks, and you've got Strange New Worlds, which I've heard is phenomenal. So, Word. Like, I got into some Discovery, like I did, and I liked Discovery. I know a lot of people did not care for Discovery. I really enjoyed it. But no, I want to engage with all the Star Trek. But Star Trek started on television, like that's the format to which it was suited. And I think they made movies for two reasons. One, because Star Wars was really fucking popular, and Paramount's like, well, we have this sci-fi series just kind of sitting here. We should do something with it. But then second of all, it was kind of a way to, revisit some of the, and, God knows that most of those actors weren't really doing much at that point. So it was a chance for them to kind of get back and do some work. And that franchise ended up getting revived into the 90s. And then with the Next Generation, even further, like it's one of the longest running franchises of all time, which I think is why I was actually talking to a friend of the show, Hope Lickner, about this the other day. There's something about a long running series with very few breaks in it, something like a Doctor Who or a Star Trek, very different from something that has like this big long break, like a Ghostbusters or a Star Wars, where you have this like long gestation period where this very small amount of output becomes like crystallized and almost sacred as a result of as a result of just having to sit with it. Like the first two Ghostbusters films are like capital C canon. Like they are S tier, God tier thing for that particular group of fans. And anytime you try to fuck with that, anytime you try to change anything up with that, heaven forbid you cast new actors or, God forbid a female as a Ghostbuster, that will then just burn this whole fucking thing to the ground. Or, oh my God, a girl can use the Force. She's a fucking Mary Sue. Get her off the screen. Like it becomes like a very like polarizing, very caustic, toxic kind of reaction to those things in a lot of cases. I'm not going to say in every case, because I don't want to make a blanket statement like that, but in a lot of cases that kind of is what it becomes, where you've got this kind of reaction because these things are held in such high esteem because they've not been continuing for literal decades. I think the longest stretch without any Star Trek at all is 5 years.
Well, it'd have to be in between the animated series and Next Generation.
No, it's the animated series and the first motion picture.
Oh, I meant just television.
No, I meant at all. Like no Star Trek whatsoever.
Oh, gotcha.
Like it's 5 years. It's 5 years between the end of the animated series and Star Trek the motion picture. Man. And then I think there's like I think an equivalent amount of time between Nemesis Star Trek Nemesis and the Kelvin timeline, J.J. Abrams movies.
Boy, I tell you what, I sure did go to the theater to see Star Trek Generations when that motherfucker came out.
First Contact for me, that one, First Contact remains one of my favorite Star Trek movies. I fucking love that movie.
Your boy was a big Star Trek fan in middle school, man.
Big same, man. Big same.
I mean, I've been casual with it since.
Same.
But boy, middle school, Next Generation was my shit.
I would frequently check out the Star Trek companion books from the library. You remember when they used to have like companion books for TV series that would give you like all the background and all the characters and shit? I would regularly check out the original series and Next Generation books from my local library as a kid.
I also recall those books, yes.
Yeah.
I thumbed through them a few times myself.
Mm-hmm.
I wore my communicator badge to the screening of Generations.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It was one that made noise too. You could go bloopity bloop.
You a little chirp chirp.
Yeah, dude. I also had the Enterprise, the one that was about like this big. That thing was rad, dude. You could push buttons on the back and it would make noises and the engines would light up and shit.
Hell yeah. My
I
dad and
had
I, like, my dad was really into model building when he was growing up. So we actually got a model of the Enterprise D from Next Generation and we're like putting it together in the basement. It was fucking rad.
Oh my God, Steven. I just remembered this. I had the transporter toy or Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, I always wanted that.
It was really cool. So my first apartment right out of high school is right across from my high school at the marina there, right across from the Warren Library. Is where I lived. And we had a lot of parties because half of our friends were still in high school.
Right.
So after school, everybody would just come over after school to my house, to my apartment. And my friend Jason, he would put his wiener in the transporter and he'd walk around and then he would make it appear. Oh, to be young.
Oh, you just ruined my childhood with that story, man. Thank you. You just fucking you just took my childhood out behind the barn and shot it in the back of the head. Thank you for that.
First there's nothing and then all of a sudden and whoop, there it is.
I hate it. I hate it so fucking much. I hate it so much. Damn you.
Oh, good times. I just thought of that.
I feel like we've talked more about Star Trek than we've talked about the movie we're supposed to be here to talk about.
I tried to get you to do the plot like half an hour ago, man.
I wanted to do the YA shit first, and we got here. But no, I mean, all that to say, like, I think there's something to be said for a long-running franchise and fans being a little less precious about it. And with that, you can kind of pick and choose. Like, you can pick which Star Trek you like and which one you don't. Some of it might work for you and some of you don't. You're not going to be as precious about it. Whereas something like Star Wars, you're just like, well, this ruins all of my childhood because I have put so much of my lifetime and effort into this one thing. And because of that, I take an installment that I don't like so personally that it ruins my entire life retroactively.
And that seemed like a good idea when I decided to be that person.
Right. Right. All right. Yeah, let's do the fucking plot to this thing. So for those of you joining us, first of all, if you manage to stick through this whole first fucking hour, particularly that like 20 minutes of Star Trek digression, thank you.
People like Star Trek.
Nah, people love Star Trek. Star Trek fucking rules. By the way, if you want to hear how that's going next year, you should probably join our Patreon, patreon.com/disenfranchpod, where every week we put out a new show called What Are We Watching, where we talk about what we've been watching the previous week. And if I'm watching Star Trek next year, you best fucking believe I'm going to be talking about it there.
Wow.
But this part of the show is what we call the plot in 60 seconds. This is where Tucker will flip the Canadian quarter of indifference, which will decide which of us, he or I, will be recounting the plot of 2016's The Fifth Wave in 60 seconds or less. Tucker will flip the coin. I will call it in the air. Tucker, flip the coin.
Call it in the air. 1, 2, 3, go.
Heads.
Oh, I dropped it. Hold on.
Fumble. Party foul.
Again. I gotta do it again. I'm not looking at it. You're gonna call it again?
I am.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go.
Heads.
It is tails, my friend.
All right, I'm putting 60 seconds on the clock, and you are counting the plot.
Fuck you mean? You said heads.
Yeah. So if it's heads, I do it.
No, if it's heads, you win, which means I have to do it. If you lose the toss, that means you have to do it. That's always how it's been since the first episode, Steven.
Is it? Because I always get confused. If you remember the first episode, the early episodes of this show, I would consistently get fucking confused about how this works. And guess what? I'm still fucking confused about how this works because
if you win,
I am very tired.
Basically, it's like if you win, you get to choose, which means the other person does it. And if you lose, but see, I think you're getting it confused with the dice roll because we're assigned numbers, and if we hit those numbers, we have to do it. Whereas, like with the coin flip, when you win the flip, you don't have to do it. Judges, you're good. You're good.
You're literally just looking out your window right now.
Over there, you maybe. Okay, yeah, we're good.
Okay, because see, that's weird. Because all these judges up here, and there's at least 12 of them, they're all siding with me on this.
So. Oh, maybe they'll have to flip a coin.
Fine, put the time on the clock. I'll fucking do it.
All right, let's do it.
I hate life.
I'm not trying to like weasel out of
you
anything.
Absolutely are.
No, that's how it goes. That's what it is. If you win the coin toss, you don't have to do it. If you lose the coin toss, you have to do it. That's how it's always been.
Again, if you go back and listen to those like first like 5 or 6 episodes, and we do it differently every fucking week because I can never remember.
I got 60 seconds on the clock, Steven.
All right, fine. Cassie Sullivan's a teenage girl, normal teenage girl, and then aliens attack, and they go through all these different waves. Like there's a flood and a disease, and all the power goes out, and then they like send out a bunch. They apparently like attack people's brains, and so the 5th wave is going to be all these child soldiers that they're going to get to like kill the rest of the human survivors, and so they all go out to do that. And there's all these fucking kids doing that, including Cassie's little brother.
Seconds.
Cassie managed to get separated from her brother because he wants his fucking bear, and she goes to get it, and the bus drives off without her. But that ends up sparing her. All the adults die. It turns out that the aliens are actually in the military, and they're trying to get them to kill all the kids, to kill all the rest of the human survivors so they can take over the planet because they need the planet Earth.
10 seconds.
The kids figure it out. They manage to get the kid out and escape. There's also another farm kid who's apparently an alien, but he sleeps with the main girl. They all get out, and they're going to fight another day, except the sequel to this movie never got made.
That was really good, Steven. And, while you were doing that, I was remembering something that proves my point. Is back in the days of the coin of justice, when you would flip it, remember that long run where Brett kept having to do it?
Yeah, but I don't remember what he was calling or what ended up landing.
Here's the deal, is you would flip it. I would remember, and he would call it, and you would say in a particular way, you would say, "It is tails," like in a disappointed sort of inflection, and it was always the opposite of what he called. I'm gonna go back and listen, Steve. I don't like the fact that like you don't believe me, man.
I'm tired and I'm confused, Tucker. I'm allowed to be tired and confused. I've also had a couple of seltzers, man.
Oh, you said seltzer water. I thought you just meant like because I drink just seltzer water.
No, dude. This is like
I didn't know it was spiked.
This is a fucking vodka soda.
Ooh, in watermelon, a can. Though. Is that good?
It's my least favorite of the 4 flavors in the pack that I got.
I drink, you know what? When I started drinking beer quite a bit, I realized that I could get carried away pretty easily without realizing it. And so I started buying seltzer water. And that fills that gap for me. Like during the day, if I'm like, man, I want a beer, I'll grab an orange seltzer.
And see, I drink these as opposed to beers because fewer calories, fewer sugars, fewer carbs, less sodium.
To be clear, the seltzer water I'm talking about has no alcohol in it.
Yeah, this does.
To be clear.
To be clear, mine does.
I'm not day drinking with Truly. All right. I'm drinking like some polar seltzer water. No vodka. Beer is after the kid goes to bed.
Sure.
Unless it's my birthday.
Sure. But
or family function.
I'm drinking Topo Chico, High Noon, White Claw, Truly, neutral. Hook it to my veins, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the plot of this movie. Such as it is.
Some cool stuff going on there, man.
But by the same token, and I was telling you this before we started recording, it feels really fucking derivative of like 5 other YA things. Like you've got the child soldier angle from Ender's Game. You've got
I never saw Ender's Game.
Which also ends up like the whole idea that the kids are actually fighting the war and the military is like kind of tricking them into doing something they don't realize they're doing. Also from Ender's Game.
Ender's Game.
You get the love triangle that is a fixture of every major YA franchise. You get
again, they don't make a huge deal out of it though. The most awkward that it gets is when like she sees Evan and they smooch and Ben Tramer's just standing there like, cool. And they don't even cut to him until like when they're almost all the way done and he's just like we're kind of on. We got time. We got to do a thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even mad.
Remember
He's
that
not even
brother of
mad.
yours you were really concerned about finding? He's
He
around here
literally
somewhere.
says that too. He's like, we need to go save Sam now. Can we do that?
I mean, you guys gonna fuck again, or I mean, I'll watch that if I have to.
Should I just go do the thing and you guys can stay
just
here?
find a room?
Yeah.
I thought he said he planted some bombs, so we might want to. No, okay.
Skedaddle.
No,
I'm going. Yep. All right.
But and I mean, I would argue that that's kind of in the vein of the Hunger Games in that regard, because it's kind of it takes a backseat in the first book. Twilight too, from what I understand, like it's kind of a subdued thing in the first book and becomes more of a big deal as the series progresses, which again feels very much a part of what the Gale Peta thing doesn't really crystallize until the second one. And then comes to a head in the third. And I have a feeling this is kind of but then you've also got the added entanglement of Ringer, and it feels like Ringer and Zombie are going to be a thing. Ringer and Ben, like, because so it feels like maybe we've got like a love quadrilateral, quadrangle, something with four sides as opposed to three.
Maybe her and Cassie will get together. Who knows?
Maybe. Look, we can only hope it's something like that.
Yo, I like her eyeliner, man. I like her eyeliner in this movie. Dude.
She is coded as like the goth emo chick,
dude,
who takes no shit, and she's great.
And is it a generic character? Sure, but she fucking kills it, dude.
I mean, she plays it very well. Is it a one note character? Yes, but she hits that note.
Oh wow,
perfectly.
Yes, sings it at the top of her fucking lungs.
Correct, belts it to the rafters. Yes. That one note that she's got, boy howdy is she hitting it every fucking time. And then you've got like the love interest is actually one of the monsters thing from Twilight and Beastly.
Well, but what is he though? Like he says he's like half and half, but we're still not really clear on what he's
a sleeper agent. Like he is what the military is, except he is choosing, like, and again, it's what he says at the end, like, I can't be both things. I have to choose. I'm choosing you. Like, so he does have that thing in his head. It's still there. He's just suppressing it because she is so beautiful that just looking at her, like, made him forget that he was trying to plot the destruction of this planet.
Like the day the Earth stood still, kind of,
or like fucking Twilight. That. Like I smelled this girl from across the school, and I realized that that being a vampire sucks, and I'm gonna choose her over my family.
No, that was the thing. You've seen the day the Earth stood still, right?
Of course, I've seen both versions. Yeah, the original's a fucking classic.
The remake was fine.
No, it wasn't, but okay.
It was fine. We didn't need it, and it wasn't great, but I don't think it was offensively bad.
No, but it wasn't great.
No, it wasn't great. I think they tried. They tried their little hearts out, but
sure, they did.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't hit. Like you want it to.
Nope.
Sometimes you get about halfway there, like you do with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You just get just right about there, and we're like, this could be something, man. And that's what I'm saying. Even though it's not great still, like with the shit that happens in this movie and the plot beats and stuff, I'm ready for a sequel. Yeah. I'm fucking ready. I want to know what happens next.
But then we've also got the whole fucking dystopia thing from like the Divergent series and the Hunger Games.
That's a little different.
Like, yeah. I mean, it is like it's alien caused as opposed to whatever the other ones are. But again, it's that kind of.
Both of those others are pretty futuristic too, whereas this is pretty modern.
Right. But all of them kind of have that like sci-fi trappings kind of imposed upon them. Like
I got kind of a Red Dawn vibe from this too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of made me think of that.
Yeah, all the kids, kid soldiers. Yeah, that's fucking Red Dawn.
Straight up Wolverines, yo.
And it doesn't really feel like it, because like when I first find out like, oh, there's going to be fucking child soldiers, like, oh my god, does this movie have something to say? No, they're not just really child soldiers.
Yeah, I mean that's bad enough, but also
right,
you could.
It feels like they could have been adult soldiers, but we want to make this a YA novel, so they have to be kids. Like that's kind of what it feels like. You also have the main female protagonist who will do anything to protect her younger sibling, like Katniss in the Hunger Games. Like, it's very much that kind of, again, there's just a lot that it feels like it's borrowing from other more popular books and movies.
Yeah, I could see that. It didn't bother me
And
as much, really, because I don't think it's too like on the nose with any of it.
I don't know that it bothered me, but it like I could see the cracks. Like I could
Mhm.
it was felt obvious. It didn't do enough to like change things up or adjust things to make it less noticeable or to kind of innovate in any way. It's just like, this works, so let's do this. Or hey, what if I took this aspect from this thing, this aspect from this thing, and these three aspects from this other thing, and I smashed them all together and made this new thing, but didn't change anything in a way, didn't infuse it with anything new enough to like. And the whole alien thing, that's Stephanie Meyer's the host. Like, it's all baked into this shit. Like, it's all in there. So I don't
It's
know,
the
man.
YA amalgam movie.
It really kind of is. But again, in it, that formulaic approach, I guess, makes sense when you're churning these out. And I'm not saying that was the original author's intent, was to churn out something like everything else. But the movie, I'm saying, that's absolutely why we're doing this. Like, this feels like very much a cash grab. Whereas you're making this thing and you're doing it by a formula because that's what's worked for all of these other ones that we've done so far. And that's the Hollywood machine at work. Like, that's the thing that we were talking about earlier. Like, Hollywood is a reactionary industry. It's all a reaction to what's come before. And without understanding that innovation is what's going to help this, like, if I've seen this movie 5 times already and I've seen it done better 5 times, then why am I going to sit through this like shittier, reductive, derivative film? And I'm not saying this movie is overall shitty. There are some bright points here, as we've mentioned, but like compared to a lot of those other films, if they've done it better, why am I sitting here watching this one?
I tell you what, I think this would have made a good television show, if I'm being honest. I mean,
Maybe.
just the plot of the first film could have covered 6 episodes.
Yeah, you could have done like a limited just a limited series of the first 3 books, do 3 seasons. Yeah.
Because I felt like there was a lot of stuff going on and they tried, but just the character development, it wasn't bad. Like it gets you there. It gets you there. But it could have been so much better. I feel like you put something like this into a TV show and give it 6 to 8 hours to breathe.
Right.
I think you're gonna have a lot better results, especially with that cast too. Same cast.
Yeah.
Just give me a 6 or 8 episode series of 45-minute episodes, and I'm way into that.
And I think even a year or 2 later, that probably would have been a more feasible approach.
Mm-hmm.
But like for a long time, everyone was so resistant to television, and even after it becomes popular, like, are the kids actually going to the movie? Like, are they actually watching TV, or are they all on their phones watching the TikToks? Like, that's what fucking Quibi was about. Like, oh, we can't keep anyone's attention long enough. Let's make them 10 minutes so you can watch them on the subway. And who fucking wants to pay for a service where you can get a max of like an hour and a half of content? Like, this is the binging era. Like, we want to sit down and just devote a day and a half to a fucking thing.
And you know what? We'll watch a show in parts if we have to. I'm just saying, you're in a waiting room, you got your headphones, you sit there for 5-10 minutes, watch a little bit of your show.
Mm-hmm.
Go and do what you gotta do, go home, finish it.
Yep.
Like,
Absolutely.
it's not most shows you can do that pretty easy. There are some shows and movies where that's probably not a good idea.
Right.
Stuff like Detention, like, don't split Detention up in any way. You're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, you won't.
Kill the momentum of that movie. You kill the momentum of that movie, and you've ruined it.
And you won't fucking remember what happened 5 minutes ago if you're not actively watching the thing.
I don't anyway. While I'm actively watching it. So.
Yeah. God, what a weird movie. What a weird fucking movie
like,
you made us.
We just like, the speed bag that the boxers do. That's my brain. The movie does that to my brain. The whole movie.
Yeah.
I love every second of it.
It feels like Christopher Landon just did like 5 lines of coke and wrote like 10 movies in one script is what it feels like.
What a beautiful. I still need to see Bodied. I gotta see that just to complete the filmography, you know?
Yeah.
Since we watched Torque.
Torque. Torque. Torque, torque, torque. Torque, torque, torque.
Torque to torque to torque.
Torque, torque. Peter Torque? No. Yeah. But man, but no, I mean, I feel like this movie, again, there's good stuff here, but there's also so many missed opportunities. And you also cast just two of the most nondescript looking white boys in the main roles. Like, I'm watching this with my partner when the alien boy is on the screen, and she's like, who is that actor? I know him from something. And I literally pulled up his filmography and just started reading. And she goes, oh, no, I've never seen him before. He just looks like someone else, which I feel like I talked about just a couple weeks ago, just like the ubiquity of like a certain actor type where you get like this guy. And it's like around this time, you can just get like a guy, like you get like 12 guys with like the same face and hair color. And you just swap. I can't get that one. Well, let me get this one. Oh, not that one's not available. Let me get this other. And you can just like mix them and match them. And they're not particularly great actors, but you can just slot them into anything, and they can just play that like handsome leading man thing, like that very stoic, I'm not doing anything kind of role really well.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's kind of fucking depressing to me, like. Because I'm looking at this, and I also while I was doing the research, looked up the guy who played the lead character in I Am Number 4, and I can't tell them apart from this. They're completely different actors, but I can't fucking tell them apart.
There's a couple kids from that YA era that have very unique faces, and the one is the Baby Driver kid. And the other one is our boy Josh Hutcherson.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two that like they're the only two that don't look like carbon copies of the rest of them.
Right. And I mean, the guy that plays Ben
Tramer
Harper Parrish in this movie, and a couple years later, he's doing Love, Simon, which is another YA adaptation. Like,
good for him.
And then you get guys like Asa Butterfield, who was in Ender's Game. He goes on to do the show Sex Education, which if you listen to What Are We Watching, you've heard me talk about.
Well, and that's one of the good things that we get from some of these shitty YA movies. Like, I have no interest in Twilight. Please, no one ever make me watch a Twilight.
I watched the first 10 minutes of the first one, and I'm like, I can't do this.
I've never seen any of them, and I don't want to see them. But damn it, if we didn't get a couple great lead actors from those movies. We got Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart.
Two of the best actors of their generation.
They are amazing.
And they're wonderful.
If it weren't for Twilight, we might not be sitting here talking about them right now.
Very true.
I'm just saying.
Very true.
Like, credit where credit's due.
No, 100%.
And that's where you get like your Josh Hutchersons. Like I said, there's so many people that come out of this.
But for every one of those, there's like 5 other just very vague, nondescript looking, bland, pretty boys, for lack of a better term, right?
Wait, did you say the Divergent girls retired?
Shailene Woodley, soft retired.
I liked her a lot.
She's really, tell you what she's really good in, Big Little Lies.
I just want to see her in more stuff because she's great, dude.
She's married to, I think, she may not still be, but she was married to, or may still be, married to Aaron Rodgers, that football player who was like an anti-vaxxer.
Oh boy. Well, she was in Ferrari. She's still doing shit, dude.
Yeah, man. But like, I mean, like I said, soft retired, not hard retired. She's not like out for good, but like,
she's in that movie that has a great cast that I have no interest in, man. Dumb Money.
Yeah, one of the movies, biopics about a brand.
Oh, and look at this. You got Paul Dano, you got Pete Davidson, Vincent D'Onofrio, America Ferrera, Nick Offerman, Seth Rogen, Sebastian Stan. Clancy motherfucking Brown.
Anthony Ramos, Shailene Woodley.
But I don't fucking care. I want to care because I love this cast. Everybody in this cast is fucking like, and Paul Dano is always a must see for me.
I love.
This would be
Paul
like
Dano.
The first Paul Dano movie I've skipped. I think.
I love Paul Dano. He's great. But yeah, again, it's that like that's the hot new thing in Hollywood. Let's do a movie about a brand, a biopic about a brand or a store or a yeah.
So I
It
didn't like Air, but there was one I wanted. What I liked. What was the one I
Blackberry, I've
liked?
heard, is the good one.
Oh yeah, I want to see that too. I've got to see Jay Baruchel in that one.
And Glenn Howerton apparently is
And
really
Glenn
fucking good in
Howerton,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Way into that. They're talking
They
maybe
did the
maybe
Beanie Baby
some.
one with Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, I didn't see that. The trailer looked fine. Like honestly, I like Zach Galifianakis, but just do more Between Two Ferns, dude. That's all I want. That's all I fucking want.
The bloopers for that are so fucking hilarious.
Just the show. It's. Did you see the movie?
No.
It's really good. You should. It's not like you're trying to figure out how do you make Between Two Ferns a movie. You're not gonna figure it out. You got to see it. It's
Okay.
really good,
I
especially if
just
you're a fan of the show, which I totally am.
there was I don't know he interviewing Brie Larson, and is like, so your parents got divorced when you were 7? She's like, yeah. He's like, was that your fault? And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? And then he asked something. He goes, do you think it was because your parents named you after a piece of cheese? And like neither one of them can keep a straight face. Like they just end up busting up so hard. And I don't know how anyone can do that show with him and just keep a straight face, because he is so fucking mean to everybody in the funniest way. Like, it's so good.
And thank you for that, Zach Galifianakis, because now we have stuff like the Eric Andre show,
Right.
which is also just, I guess that would be considered maybe cringe humor, but it's not the same.
I watched an episode of that and I was just like, this is a bridge
That
too far
show
for me.
is insane,
Sure.
insane, and like
Yes.
I respect the hell out of it and I love it, but I can't watch it more than like maybe one episode every couple months, man, because it's so much.
And that's more than I can
So
do.
much.
I liked that movie that he did a couple years ago.
Yo, he's a
What
really
was the name
good
of that
actor,
movie?
by the way. But you're talking
He
about the
is.
one that was not really, he wasn't really acting in. It was the one they were going across the country doing stuff or whatever, right?
Yeah, with like Tiffany Haddish and Laurel.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that movie called? It was called Bad Trip. One of my favorite movies of 2021, Bad Trip, actually. Like, I really liked Bad Trip. I thought that was really fun.
He was really good in The Righteous Gemstones.
He's really good in The Righteous Gemstones. Season 2, so good.
He was good in this show called Man Seeking Woman, another Simon Rich show. He was really
he's
good in that.
man. He's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should probably wrap up talking about the fifth wave, because we've been really doing everything we can to not talk about the fifth wave.
Well, and no, you know what? Before we hit that plot, we talked about it a lot, actually.
We did.
We've discussed we've been on some tangent, but I think we've covered this film, I think.
We've had several diversions. Divergence?
Maybe. Straight up maybe.
But I mean, yeah, is it good? No. Like, I feel like I want more out of this movie than what I get from it. But I don't know if that's the fatigue with the genre, the fact that this movie's not doing enough originally, or if it's just not doing a good enough job at adapting the source material to make me care. Like, I'm not sure where to point the blame at this movie for not being better, but I just wish it were better. Like, again, like you said, it feels like there's a good idea in here at the heart of this thing. It's just not executed well in this movie.
Well, and I think there are several well done moments in this film too, but as a whole,
right,
it just doesn't. It gets so close so many times, so close,
and falls flat on its face right out of the gate.
Yep.
And I mean, yeah, that's what it is, man. So the fifth wave comes out it opens on Thursday, January 14th, 2016. So it's a January movie. So right away, studio does not have a lot of confidence in this one. Let's do the weekend for the 15th. So it's opening weekend. It opens at, I think I'm in the wrong weekend.
Oops.
Yes. So it opens the opening weekend. So I guess it opens wide on the 22nd, I guess is the wide release on this one. It makes 10.3 million dollars its opening weekend. It opens at number 6, which is not a great opening for this one at all.
I was gonna say 3.
No.
Ooh, 6. That sucks.
6 is bad. So it makes 10.3 its opening weekend. Domestically, it earns 34.9 million dollars in its full box office run. So not a good multiplier.
What's the budget?
The budget on this, according to thenumbers.com, is 38 million. So doesn't even make back its budget.
It looks like about a $30 million movie.
Right. It's
That's what I was gonna guess,
there on the screen.
Somewhere between 30 and 50, I was going to say.
Yeah.
How much they probably spent on this bitch.
Now, internationally, it makes another 76 million. So we're looking at about a worldwide gross of 111 million. But still, those are not the numbers you want for a franchise starter, particularly with that very lackluster opening weekend. So let's take a look at the films in theaters that opening weekend. At number 1 in its 5th weekend, up from number 2 the weekend before, it's the movie that finally got Leonardo DiCaprio his Oscar, The Revenant, from the year before.
Still haven't seen it.
I started to watch it and I just couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I just don't think I care.
In second place, a movie that I have invoked on this episode already, J.J. Abrams' Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
I saw that at the movie theater.
I saw that one opening night. That one's been out 6 weeks at this point, and it's number 2. So the new releases are not really hitting. But again, it's January. This is not the film. It's not the time of year you want to dump new releases.
It's I want to, if I may, pause for just a second and say that I'm not the type of dude what like intends to go see a Star Wars at the movie theater.
Sure.
But you have to understand.
Do I?
Everyone is fucking batshit crazy about Star Wars. So like every friend I have is just like jerking off to the thought of seeing this movie. And so like I'm going to see it at the theater because, you know, I hang out with my friends and they're going to go see it.
Right. This was one, honestly, I was not planning on seeing this one opening weekend. And then my ex was like, hey, do you have plans? And I was like, no. And she's like, all right, cool. We're doing something tonight. I was like, okay, what are we doing? She's like, I'll tell you later. I was like, okay. And then just turns out we were going to see Star Wars. Like a couple of our friends were going. And so we just went and saw Star Wars. And so after that, I made her go see the other movies in the sequel trilogy in theaters on opening night. I was like, well, you started this. So if you don't like it, you shouldn't have set that precedent. So yeah. In third place is Ride Along 2. Down from number 1 the weekend before. It's only been out for 2 weeks. So it opens at number 1.
What if we rode along again?
Right. And that's really what it should have been called. Ride Along Again.
Another ride along.
Or Riding Longer.
Long ride too.
In fourth place is Lionsgate's Dirty Grandpa, which I can't remember if that's the Johnny Knoxville one or the Robert De Niro one.
I don't know either.
Let me look. That is
doesn't matter. Next,
that's the Robert De Niro one. Yeah, I just looked it up. Okay. In fifth place, The Boy, which I think
was a boy.
Is that? Yeah, that's that horror movie about the doll. And that 4, 5, and 6 all opening this week. So Dirty Grandpa, The Boy, and The Fifth Wave all opening this week, opening at 4, 5, and 6 respectively. Not great. Speaking of Michael Bay, which we were, Benghazi, 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi is down from number 4 in its second weekend at number 7.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
That's the one with like John Krasinski about Benghazi. I don't know what to tell you. Daddy's Home in 8th place. That's that Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg movie.
Yep.
In 9th place, Norm of the North, a movie that does not exist.
Nope.
And in 10th place, a little movie called The Big Short.
That's a movie also.
So, yep, there's your opening weekend box office for The Fifth Wave. The tomatometer score is a 17%. Harsh, with
I don't think that's fair.
Critics consensus, with unimpressive effects and plot points seemingly pieced together from previous dystopian YA sci-fi films. Thank you. The Fifth Wave ends up feeling like more of a limp, derivative wriggle. Could not have put it better myself. The Metacritic score, the Metascore on this one is a 33, based on mostly negative reviews, generally unfavorable reviews from 30 critics. And the Letterboxd score on this one is a 2.1. Tucker, out of 5 possible stars, what are you giving 2016's The Fifth Wave?
Look, I had a real good time with this movie. There were some points where it kind of lost me, especially in the second act. But overall, despite its flaws, I had a really good time with this movie, and it's so close to a 3. It's so close to a 3 for me, but it's a 2.5.
Okay. Yeah, it's a 1.5 for me.
Yeah, based on what we've been saying during this episode, that tracks for both ratings, I'd say.
Right. I would agree. So yeah, that's The Fifth Wave, everybody. Like, I'll wave 4 times and here's the 5th one coming in because we're saying goodbye now. Look, thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys listening, and check us out on all of our social media platforms. We're at DisenfranchPod on Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, YouTube. Did I say Letterboxd already? Let me say it again. Letterboxd.
You did.
At DisenfranchPod. Find us there. You can also shoot us an email, disenfranchpod@gmail.com. You can also hit up our Patreon, patreon.com/disenfranchpod, $5 a month. There's at least one new episode a week, and we try to drop another something else every month if we can. But do go check that out. There's so much content behind that paywall. It will take you some time to get through it all. And I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy. You can find me on not Twitter anymore, I'm kind of still on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, at Chewy Walrus. You can find the absent Brett Wright at sus_warlock on Instagram and Letterboxd, and sus_warlock on Blue Sky. Tucker, where can we find you?
I'd like to start by saying that Eric Andre is in Inland Empire. And then I'll say that you can find me on YouTube. Excuse me. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Ice909. That's ICENINE, the number 0, and the number 9. I'm also on Instagram. I got Tuck Mugs, Tuck_mugs. That's where we talk about mugs and where we got them and what's in them and how super duper rad they are. And that's where you can find me.
Cool, thanks. And so that's all we got for this episode. So I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy, from my co-host Tucker and the absent Brett Wright. Until next time, I just waved at you.
Bye.
I just waved at you 5 times.
5 times. I counted. He did it 5.
They're all there. Bye.